Hello, welcome to English Composition. I'm Michael Cheng. I'm here today with Cher Chen.
欢迎各位同学回来英文作文课程，我是 Cher。
Right, today we are working on Unit 18, and here we'll learn a little bit about proverbs, and then we will learn how to write an essay that uses detailed examples to support a proverb's teachings.
好，我们今天看的是第18课哦。在这个单元中呢，我们将学习到一些谚语或是格言，然后练习写一篇短文来举例或佐证谚语中的教诲。
Right, now let's start by learning more about proverbs in our writing focus.
首先呢，我们先来看一下写作重点，我们来学习一下什么叫做谚语。
Right. Proverbs are short sayings that are very popular in a culture, and they'll be familiar to almost everyone in the culture, in fact.
好，谚语呢，指的是一个国家一个文化之中很受欢迎的一种话语。这些人们呢，在这个国家对他的谚语都应该能够朗朗上口。
Some proverbs are even familiar across different cultures, and this means that the same proverb also often appears in different languages.
那事实上呢，有一些谚语甚至能够流传到各国去也就是说，有一些谚语它会有不同的语言。
And a proverb is meant to teach people some traditional piece of wisdom. And so therefore there's a proverb that can give you advice on how to deal with almost any sort of situation.
好，谚语呢，它是传统的智慧它流传下来的教诲呢，通常都能够教导你在社会上有一些应对的状况。
Another funny thing about proverbs is that sometimes they contradict each other.
然而呢，比较有趣的是，有时候有些谚语它是互相抵触的。
Right. We just said that proverbs teach you a traditional piece of wisdom. And this means that proverbs are wise sayings that are passed down from generation to generation. And because they originated a long time ago, when life was very different from it is now, people in our modern world may find that an old proverb is a little confusing or hard to understand.
好，我们刚刚提过呢，所谓的谚语指的就是传统留下来的智慧。那它通常呢是一代传一代这样的方式流传下来的。那因为当它第一次被说出来的时候呢，可能时代背景跟现在都是相差非常多的。那也因此呢，有一些谚语到现在呢就非常难去理解了。
Right, so today we are going to explain to you the meaning of a few common proverbs.
好，那所以今天呢，我们要做的事情呢，也就是为各位同学解释一些我们常见的谚语。
Right, we are going to start with a very famous proverb, which is a stitch in time saves nine. But instead of just telling you about what the proverb means, we're going to show it to you in a little skit.
好，我们现在呢要先为各位同学介绍的是一个非常常见的谚语各位同学可以在荧幕上看到这句谚语呢，它的意思是及时缝一针，能够省九针那这样是什么意思呢？那与其我们直接告诉同学意思那我们现在先来看一段短片。
Looks like it's been a pretty good day.
Well, Sophie, looks like it's time to go work on the farm.
Wait a moment, Michael. There's a rip on your shirt. Let me fix it before you go.
No time.
Can't you hear the cow mooing outside? Gotta go milk her right away.
If you don't let me fix it right now, it's gonna turn into a larger rip.
Oh, don't worry. Be happy. I'll be careful. You can fix it later.
What did you do to your shirt?
I didn't do anything. I was just working on the farm, and every time I moved my arm, the rip got bigger and bigger.
I told you to let me fix it before you left. I could have fixed it with just one stitch. Now it's gonna take so much more work to do.
I'm sorry.
You should have listened to your grandma. She always said they should take care of problems right away. Don't you remember what she used to say?
A stitch in time saves nine.
Okay, so we saw that little skit, and we will learn more about some proverbs later, but first let's take the proverb that we saw in the skit and form an essay around it.
好，各位同学刚刚已经看到这个很有趣的短句哦。那我们待会儿呢还会再介绍更多的谚语。不过呢，我们首先呢先照我们在短句中看到的这一句谚语哦，我们来写作我们的这个短文。
Right, now our essay is going to be an example essay, and so this means that we need to take some of our think of some examples to show what this proverb means.
好，我们在这里会教各位同学写作呢，是写所谓的范例文哦。范例文呢，也就是说你必须要想出一些好的例子哦，来佐证这样子去解释这样一个谚语。
Right, now our example can show what the original meaning of the proverb was, but we should also have an example that uses the proverb in a more contemporary setting.
好，我们举出来的例子呢，当然可以显示出这个谚语原本的意思。那当然，为了因应时代哦，我们也必须要想出一些例子哦，是可以代表这个现代哦这个状况下面的使用方式。
Right. Now, the main point of the proverb, "A stitch in nine saves time," is that we should not procrastinate. And procrastinate is one of the vocabulary words that we had in this chapter, and it means to put off or to delay something that you should do until a later time.
好，我们在这里呢，这一句谚语它的意思呢，也就是说，我们不应该要拖延事情。那在这地方我们看到这个单字procrastinate，这个字呢，它指的意思就是说，去拖延你应该要做的事情。
Right. So now, share. Do you ever procrastinate?
Sure, I believe all students have the experience. For example, like a professor asked me to do a homework and set a deadline, but I didn't do it right away, so I waited till the last day, and I have to stay up late to finish the job.
Okay.
So, how about you? Do you have any experience about being procrastinate?
Okay, I procrastinate all the time. And so, for example, I have a story about a computer that you'll see later on in the writing model. And one time when I was working, my computer started making a funny noise. And then the noise disappeared because my computer was actually broken, not because the problem went away. And because I procrastinated, I didn't have time to get it fixed. And you'll find out more about it later on.
好，刚刚老师跟我呢分享了我们彼此拖延事情的一个经验哦。那对我来说呢，就像所有的学生一样，总是老师交给你作业的时候，你不马上写哦，直到最后一天你才开始这个挑灯夜战把它完成哦。那对老师来讲呢，老师分享了一个他的经验哦，也就是他的电脑呢，之前呢曾经发出一些怪声哦，那最后这怪声消失了哦，那其实是因为老师的电脑有个部分坏掉了，那但是因为老师没有及时的去修补它，所以造成这个东西器具坏掉。那关于这地方的细节呢，我们之后在这个写作范例的时候，各位同学会知道详细的故事内容。
All right, so now another thing that we need to think about is why do people procrastinate?
好，那接下来我们还想要知道的是，为什么人们会想要拖延呢？
All right, and I think one reason is that sometimes people don't know what to do, so they just don't do anything.
好，那这个比较长的状况呢，应该是因为人们可能不清楚到底该做什么，所以干脆什么都不做。
Right, another reason is that you can be too busy, and so you end up dealing with things that are more urgent first.
好，那另外一种常听到的借口呢，则是说你太忙了，所以呢，你必须要去处理更紧急、更急迫的事情。
All right, and some people procrastinate because they like the feeling of pressure, or they feel that if there's more pressure, they can be more creative.
当然也有一些人他们觉得所谓拖延呢，是因为他们能够在这个压力下会变得更加的有创意。
And then finally, maybe some people procrastinate because they're very lazy and they don't want to do something unless you're pushing them very hard.
那当然，更常见的状况就是这个人是比较懒惰啦，除非你逼迫他做某件事，否则他是不愿意做的。
All right, so now we've learned a bit about proverbs. We've also learned about procrastinating. Let's take a break now, and we will have more English composition in a few moments.
好，我们现在呢已经了解这个谚语了，我们也知道这个单字，我们待会呢再回来。
Okay, welcome back. So we saw an example earlier of what the proverb "a stitch in time saves nine" means in the video, and we also shared some of our own procrastination experiences earlier. For example, my computer had a problem and I didn't fix it when I was working on a project. And so what we're going to do is take these examples and create a paper about the proverb.
好，那各位同学，我们刚刚讲的这个谚语呢，我们就说，曾经在这个短片中，我们已经了解到一个例子了。那同时呢，我们也彼此分享了一些关于所谓拖延的状况而造成的一些后果这样的例子。那举例来说，老师刚刚提到电脑就是所谓拖延的例子。那接下来呢，我们将把这些例子综合起来，来写作我们今天的短文。
Right, now first let's decide a goal for our essay. And our goal can be to show that the proverb, a stitch in time saves 9, offers some really good advice.
好，那接下来呢，我们先来决定我们写作这篇短文的目的哦。那我们的目的呢，当然就是要去表示说，这个谚语呢，它是能够提供我们非常好的一些意见。
Right, so therefore we can write a thesis statement like this one.
好，因此呢，我们现在可以写出我们的主旨叙述哦。
I have many experiences that make me believe that a stitch in time saves 9 is a really good piece of advice.
好，那我们的主旨叙述会这样写哦。那我有非常多的经验去让我相信，这个缝一针，及时缝一针胜过能够补9针哦。这个谚语呢是提供非常好的一些意见。
And now since the basic message of the proverb is that it's good not to procrastinate, we can use our conclusion to say what we learn from the proverb.
好，那既然呢，我们在这个谚语中呢，我们要得到的这个重点呢，就是说最好是不要去做拖延哦。所以呢，在我们的结论部分，我们就把这一点点出来。
And so therefore, we can write a conclusion like this one. I must stop procrastinating.
好，那因此呢，我们做出这样子的结论哦，我一定要停止拖延。
All right, so now that we have an idea of where we want to start our essay and where we want to end our essay, let's create an outline for the entire essay.
好，那既然现在呢，我们已经知道我们的开头，以及知道我们的结尾，那现在呢，我们就来做出一个完整的大纲。
Right, now first we're going to make an outline of our introduction.
好，首先呢，我们先针对这个开头的部分，我们来列出我们的大纲。
All right, so we can start the introduction by letting our reader know what proverb we're going to write about.
好，首先呢，我们先提到的当然就是我们要讲述的是哪一个谚语。
All right, and then after that, we'll explain what the proverb means.
好，那接下来我们解释它的意思。
All right, and so many proverbs have unusual meanings that are not really clear when you look at them for the first time. So it's good for us to clearly state the meaning of the proverb right at the beginning of the essay.
好，那就像我们刚刚提到的呢，很多时候谚语在不同国家或是在不同的状况下会有不一样的解释，那会让大家会比较困难去理解它。所以呢，我们最好在一开头的时候就帮他做一个好的解释。
And finally, we will finish our introductory paragraph with our thesis statement, so the readers will know what the purpose of our essay is.
好，那当然呢，在我们的这个开头段落的最后一句话，我们就把我们的主旨叙述点出来。
And so remember that our thesis statement is, I have many experiences that make me believe that a stitch in time saves 9 is a really good piece of advice.
好，那因此呢，我们就写出这样的句子那我有很多的经验去让我确信，即使缝一针能够省9针，真是字字真言。
Okay, next let's go on and outline the body paragraphs of our essay.
好，接下来呢，我们来做这个主体段落的部分来把它列出大纲。
And in our body paragraphs, we want to give very clear and specific examples. And so we should make our examples something that our readers can relate to also.
好，那因此呢，在这个地方我们要举出非常确切的例子那这个例子呢，最好是让我们的读者能够切身的感到相同的意见。
And also, in addition, we should give enough details so that our readers can feel like they're witnessing the event.
好，那同时呢，我们也必须要提供足够的一些细节的叙述这样我们的读者呢才能够感觉到身临其境。
All right, so now let's take a look at our first body paragraph. And here we're going to give an example that's similar to the traditional meaning of the proverb. And so this paragraph will have an example that's related to sewing a button back onto a shirt.
好，我们在第一个主体段落的部分呢，我们要举的例子是和它文字上字面上的意思是非常相近的。那也就是呢，我们讲到的是在这个衣服上面一颗松脱的纽扣。
And then as we're telling this story about the loose button on the shirt, we'll say that we didn't fix the button.
好，那我们接下来讲到，当然就是我们并没有去在一开始及时的去修补那个这个纽扣。
And then as a result, I had to sew the whole button back on when it fell off.
那所以呢，到这个纽扣整颗掉下来之后呢，我才必须把它整个的缝补回去。
And when we go to our second body paragraph, we're going to write about an example that's more modern. And this example will be related to the computer problem that we talked about earlier.
好，那在第二个主体段落的部分呢，我们要举出一个比较现代一点的例子，那讲的就是老师刚刚提过的关于电脑的例子。
Right, and so the events that happened are first that there was a funny noise that came from the computer, and the funny noise was because the fan was broken.
好，那我们会提到就是说，这电脑的风扇坏掉了，所以发出一些奇怪的声音啊。
All right, and then later the computer got very hot.
好，那接下来电脑就变得非常的热。
And then my friends told me some very scary things about what can happen.
那因为电脑变得很烫所以呢，老师的朋友就告诉他一些关于电脑变这么烫可能会发生的事情。
And so then later what I did is I had to take another fan and blow it right into my computer to cool it off.
那造成的结果呢，就是老师只好另外拿一个风扇从外头把它吹入他的电脑里面。
Right, and so then these two body paragraphs, we can see that they're written in the form of narrations, and this means that we're telling the events of the situation in the order that they occurred, and so that you can see that our outline are just notes of the main events of my button experience and of the computer experience.
好，各位同学可以发现呢，我们讲述了两个例子这两个例子的写作方式呢，也就是我们之前提过的叙述文的写作方式。那因此呢，它会通常是照着时间的发生顺序来写作的。因此呢，我们刚刚在做这个大纲的条列的时候，可以发现像是一件事情接着一件事情的这样发生的方式。
All right, so now let's go on and outline the conclusion of this essay.
好，那接下来我们来看一下结论的部分。
All right, and so we can see our conclusion is going to re-emphasize the thesis, and we're going to do this by restating the main idea in the proverb in new words, which is I must stop procrastinating.
好，那当然在结尾的部分，我们要再次强调我们的主旨叙述，所以呢，我们再换了一个字那我们再次的强调说，我必须要停止拖延这件事。
All right, and then what we do is say that what we hope happens next, and so, or we can explain what we learn, and so we can say a stitch in time saves nine is a great piece of advice, and that I hope I can follow it more often.
那当然最后我们会再一次的回归主题因此我们就会提到说，这个及时缝一针能省9针这句话真是一个非常好的建议。那我们以后会照着这个建议继续去遵行。
All right, now let's take a little bit of a break. And after the break, we will continue with reading the essay that we wrote.
好，我们先休息一下，待会回来我们再来读读看我们的写作范例。
Okay, welcome back. So far we've learned about proverbs, and we've also made an outline for an essay about the proverb, a stitch in time saves nine. So now we're going to go to our writing model and read the essay that we wrote.
好，各位同学，我们到目前为止呢，已经了解了这个谚语的意思。那同时呢，我们也已经把大纲完成了。那接下来呢，我们就要进入写作范例的部分，来看看要怎么样去写作这篇文章。
Stitch in time saves nine.
及时缝一针能省9针。
A common proverb is a stitch in time saves nine. Literally, this means that if you sew up a small tear right away, it will only take one stitch. But if you wait, it may take 9 stitches to mend the tear.
有一句常见的谚语说：“及时缝一针能省9针。”字面上来说，这代表着是，如果你在小洞形成时及时缝补，就只需要1针；但如果你拖延了，让洞变大了，你可能就要花上9针才能去缝补这个洞。
More generally, this proverb means that you can save yourself a lot of trouble if you take care of your problems as soon as they occur.
扩大来讲，这句谚语的意思就是说，如果你在问题形成时就去处理它，则可以替你自己省去很多麻烦。
I have many experiences that make me believe that a stitch in time saves nine is a really good piece of advice.
我有很多这样的经验，让我深信及时缝一针能省9针，真的是字字真言。
The first experience is very similar to the literal meaning of the proverb.
第一个经验和这句谚语字面上的意思非常相近。
Sometimes when I am getting dressed, I see that there is a button loose on one of my shirts. I should just grab a needle and thread and fix it right then with 1 or 2 stitches.
有时候当我穿衣服的时候，我看到上衣有个纽扣松脱了，我应当马上拿起针线缝个2针就能补好它。
But I always seem to have something more pressing to do, so I put it off. Then, when I get home in the evening, I forget about the loose button, or I feel too tired to take care of it, so I put it off some more.
但我总是觉得还有别的更重要的事要做，所以我就拖延了缝补这个工作。于是，当我晚上回家时，我已经忘了这颗纽扣松脱的事，或者是我懒得去缝补它，所以我又再次拖延了。
The end result is that the button falls off, and I have to sew the whole thing back on, which takes a lot longer than it would have if I had just fixed the button when it was loose.
最终的结果就是这颗纽扣掉了，我必须花更多的时间和针线去将它完整的缝补回去。
Another experience concerns my computer. It started making funny noises one day. It sounded like the fan was having a problem, but I just ignored it until the sound went away.
另一个经验则是关于我的电脑。有一天，我的电脑开始发出怪声，听起来像是风扇出了问题，但我却忽略这个怪声，直到有一天，声音完全消失了。
But I noticed that the top of my computer started to feel really hot. And when I took a floppy disk out of the floppy disk drive, it was really hot too.
不过，当我的电脑上盖却越来越热了，而且呢，当我把我的随身碟拔出时，随身碟也显得越来越烫了。
Then a friend told me, "Oh, your computer will really get hot if the fan is broken. You can cook an egg on it. You'd better not use it very long each time."
这时，一个朋友告诉我，如果真的是你的电脑风扇坏了，你的电脑会越来越热，热到时候你都可以在上头煎蛋了。你最好每次不要使用太长的时间。
But what got me even more scared was when another friend said, "If your computer gets too hot, it will corrupt all your data." Then I got really scared.
但让我更加害怕的是，另外一个朋友告诉我，如果你的电脑变得太热，它可能会让你的档案全部消失。于是我真的变得非常担心了。
I wanted to take my computer to the shop to have the fan fixed right away, but I couldn't afford to be without it for 2 days. I had a tight deadline to meet, so I really needed to use my computer.
我很想赶紧把电脑拿到店里去修理风扇，但是我实在没有办法2天不使用电脑。很多事情的截止日期接踵而来，我必须要有电脑在身边。
But I was so scared of losing data that I opened the computer case up and I set a fan to blow right into the computer whenever I used it. Fortunately, my computer held up until I finished my project.
但我实在很害怕会失去电脑里储存的档案，所以我把电脑的外壳打开，然后每当我使用它时，我就拿一个电风扇从旁边吹拂。幸好我的电脑一直撑到我完成报告的那一天。
All these experiences make me realize that I must stop procrastinating.
这些经验都让我明白到，我应该要停止拖延这件事了。
I really should have taken care of my computer the first time I heard a funny noise come out of it, and I really should fix my buttons as soon as I see that one is loose.
早在我第一次听见电脑发出怪声时，我就该要去处理这个问题了。而且我也应该在看见纽扣松脱的时候就去缝补它。
I know that a stitch in time saves 9 is a great piece of advice. I just hope that I can follow it more often in the future.
我明白，及时缝一针能够省9针这句话真是一句有用的谚语。我只希望在将来我能够遵循着这句谚语的指示。
All right, now what we will do is take a few minutes to look at the proverb exercise on page 234 to 235 of your textbook.
好，那接下来呢，我们会花一点时间呢来看一些这个谚语的练习哦。那各位同学可以看到课本第234到235页。
All right, and so here we can see that some proverbs contradict each other. And so let's just take a look at the first 2 examples in this exercise.
好，我们会发现呢，有些谚语哦，它是彼此互相抵触的。我们先来看一下第一跟第二个例子。
Right, and so the first proverb is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And what this proverb means is that if you have something now, you should just be satisfied with it instead of trying to get more of something, instead of giving up what you have to try to get something more later.
好，我们可以看到这一句谚语的意思呢，指的是说一鸟在手胜过双鸟在林，也就是说，你千万不要因为想要去追求更多的东西而失去了你现在所拥有的。
All right, and so the opposite of this proverb would be something like nothing ventured, nothing gained.
好，那和这个句子完全相反的意思呢，也就是说，这个没有努力就不会有获得。
All right, and let's go on and look at the next one. It says, "Fools rush in where angels fear to tread."
好，我们看到第二题呢，它的谚语说到的是天使都不敢踏入的地方，蠢材才会冲进去。
And so it means that if you're too hasty, then you can be really stupid. You should think about what you can do more carefully.
意思也就是说，如果你太过急躁的话呢，你经常就会做错一些事情哦。
All right, and the opposite of this would be he who hesitates is lost.
那它的相反词呢，也就是说，你如果犹豫的话，你就会失去。
All right, and so for your homework, what you should do is you should write your own proverb essay about some proverb that is interesting to you. You can write it about the same stitch and time essay or stitch and time proverb or a different one.
好，那各位同学这礼拜回家的作业哦，请各位同学挑选一句谚语，然后来写作你自己的谚语的短文。那当然，各位同学也可以沿用我们现在所讲的这一句。
All right, and finally, we'd like to say that we really enjoyed teaching you during the last 2 semesters of English composition, and we hope that you really learned a lot during your studies this year.
好，那各位同学知道这是第18讲哦，是这一学期的最后一章。那很高兴跟各位同学已经共度了一整个学期哦。那希望各位同学都有很好的时光。
And then we also have some final thoughts that we want you to remember about writing.
好，那到了最后呢，我们也希望各位同学记住最后的一些事情。
And the first thing is that writing is really hard work. It takes a lot of organization and planning, and so you should also take time to prepare before you begin to write.
首先呢，我们会希望各位同学要知道哦，写作是一件很艰苦的过程哦。那他必须要花时间去组织以及计划它，所以呢，就要记得永远呢在开始写作之前都要花点时间去做准备。
And so when you are preparing, you should decide on what the purpose is or what the key message is of what you're going to write about. And so, for example, in today's essay, our purpose was to explain why the proverb "a stitch in time saves 9" is a good piece of advice.
好，那当你开始这个准备的时候呢，你首先必须要先决定你写作的目的，以及你主要想要传达的内容讯息是什么。那举例来讲，像今天的这个句子，我们主要就是要在解释说这一句谚语它到底对我们有什么样的意义。
All right, so now then after you decide on your purpose, you should take some notes and you should write down the most important information that you need to put into your essay to convince your readers to accept your purpose.
好，那在你决定完你的这个目的之后呢，接下来你可以做一些笔记，把这一些重要的讯息写下来。这些讯息呢，是希望能够用来去使你的读者相信并且接受你的目的的。
All right, and then after that, remember you can make an outline. After you have an outline, it should be much easier for you to write your essay or your report.
好，那接下来各位同学当然要知道，一定要写作大纲哦。大纲可以帮助你在你写作文章或是写作报告的时候更加轻松、更加容易。
All right, and also remember, go back and review what you write after you're done.
那最后呢，当你完成你的写作之后，千万不要忘记，一定要再一次回头去检视你的作品。
Right, you can make sure that your writing is clear and logical. You can also see if there is a simpler way to write what you wrote.
好，当你检视的时候呢，你就可以看看是不是写的逻辑够清楚，那有没有别的方式可以去把它写好。
Thanks for joining us this whole year for English composition. We wish you the best of luck in your studies.
谢谢各位同学这一整个学期的参与，我们希望各位同学在未来都能够有更好的学习。